All right, let's get into it, man. The Brock Purdy conversation.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, exactly. The show is titled Brock Purdy Conversation That Has People Scared. And it's not a conversation that isn't being talked about or anything like that. I'm not going to come to you with any breaking crazy news that you haven't heard, but more so just being willing to have the conversation, a true conversation. It seems like the community as a whole is very gun shy to even mention his name. If you can't say it's like the old adage, your mom tells you or your parents tell you, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And that's what I feel like is happening with Brock Purdy. It's like if you're not over the top with your praise of Brock Purdy, you can't even mention his name. Don't even say his name, because otherwise you're a hater, you're not a true fan. People aren't willing to have the conversation. And I think it's horseshit, man. I think you have to be willing to have the conversation, especially now that he's the only guy in town. He is the quarterback of this team. The expectations are a Super Bowl. You have to be willing to talk about it. Now, that doesn't mean that you go over the top and crap on him when he has a game like he had on Sunday. Again, I gave him a C in that game. There was nothing awful that I saw in that game. People are really talking about the 3 misses, but for me, the reason I gave him a C wasn't just the 3 misses. To me, he had 7 passes. He completed, I think he was like 19 to 25, if I remember. So 7 of his 25 passes overall were off target, which is not like Brock. The one thing that makes Brock good is he's got good timing, good accuracy. He was not accurate on Sunday. He just wasn't. 7 of his passes, I think, were not on target. Some of those, 3 of those were completed, but nonetheless, we talked about CJ Stroud, and what I thought made him great was his ball placement. Regardless of whether a guy's open or not, or whether you complete the pass, doesn't necessarily mean that you're an accurate passer. And on Sunday, I didn't look at Brock for the most part as an accurate passer the way that I've come to expect from him, right? And then the other thing is 6 of his 19 completions were screen passes. So when you take those things into account, I think overall I gave him a C. You can't give him anything lower than a C, in my opinion, because he didn't turn the ball over. And one thing that I said on Sunday, I tweeted this out. When it comes to Brock Purdy, we spent a whole offseason talking about the ceiling, the ceiling, the ceiling. Well, what about the floor? Because yes, there are guys in this league, no doubt about it. The Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Herberts, the Lamars, the whoever you want to mention, that clearly have a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy. However, Brock Purdy has a very high floor. And that's what makes the 49ers comfortable with this situation. If this is the worst that you're going to get from Brock Purdy, and long term, you're going to see worse games from Brock Purdy. But right now, in a 10-game sample size, that is arguably the worst that Brock Purdy has looked. If you can get a C game when he's not on, I'll take that. That is massive for me. Those C games versus a Sam Darnold, who we've kind of bagged on, who will give you those F games. Jimmy Garoppolo, we've seen those F games. Right now, if we can maintain the C games, I'm great with that. I have zero issue with that. You still clearly can win if he's not what you've become accustomed to with him. And we saw that on Sunday. But overall, why do you think people are just gun shy? Or is that a me thing? Like, is that just me that's recognizing this? Or do you feel the same way where people are just gun shy to even mention his name unless they're going to talk overwhelmingly positive about him?
I mean, you brought so I've been watching the chat since you started this topic, and people that haven't been commenting at all throughout this entire show are now just going ham in the chat. Like, they're just so mad that you actually brought up Brock Purdy's name without saying he's the next Joe Montana. Like, people just need to calm down. Like, Brock Purdy is good at a lot of things. He's great at some things. Most of his game is good. There's not much to criticize Brock Purdy about. Yes, he's won a lot of games, although I don't say QB. I don't think winning is a quarterback stat. It's a team game. So I will say that to you guys that said, the guy that says he has an effing lost in the chat. Like, calm down, breathe in, breathe out. It's going to be okay. I think that the bigger conversation that we need to have right now is not really about Brock Purdy. It's about the fans and some of the media that are unwilling to just let's have an honest conversation. It's okay to say that Brock Purdy is good at most things. And it's also okay to say that he needs to improve in some areas, those areas being his deep game, which is why I called him dink and dunk, why everyone got pissed off. And you may categorize it how you want to. You may say it's not dink and dunk. You can say whatever you want to. But the bottom line is Brock Purdy has not shown yet that he's a good deep ball passer. Can he become a good deep ball passer? Yeah, he probably can. If Brock's mentality and the way he is as a man, like his makeup, I think
not only he probably will. Like, right?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, I would
know that. I'll say he can.
I'll say this. The reason that I would say he probably will is because he does have all the mental makeup that you want. Like, if he doesn't, it's because maybe there's truly like the physical limitations or just too much to overcome. But it's definitely not going to happen because of lack of work ethic, lack of wanting to be great, lack of doing everything you can to be great. Like, those are not going to be the reasons that he doesn't become very good in those areas, right? And that's all he can control. He can't control maybe being 6'1" or you know, whatever the physical limitations are. He can't control those. But what he can control, he's absolutely going to do everything in his power to control those things. Like that, I can guarantee. That I know.
I agree with that. What I was saying is, like, I agree with what you're saying. But the point I was trying to make is I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying he can because of the things you mentioned. I think it's possible that he can be better at it. Now, whether his arm limitations prohibit that from actually end up happening, or maybe Kyle Shanahan dials back these deep throws. What needs to happen is Kyle Shanahan needs to keep dialing these things up for Brock Purdy.
For sure.
Because he's not going to learn it in practice. He's got to learn it in games, right? He's got to learn the timing on it. And I think the issue with Brock Purdy is not that he can't throw the ball 35 to 45 yards. Every NFL quarterback can. Is can he be consistent when he does it? I don't think Brock Purdy's ever going to be making 50, 60-yard bombs like some quarterbacks in the NFL. But that's probably not important. But what is important is those 25 to 45-yard passes, being consistent at that range, being able to do that 3-4 times a game. That is important. That's why Kyle Shanahan dialed him up. And it's okay to say that Brock Purdy is good at everything else but that. So far, it's okay to say that. That doesn't make you a Brock Purdy hater. I don't see how anyone hates Brock Purdy. I don't see how anyone hates Brock Purdy. People think I hate Brock Purdy because I'm being honest about my evaluation and him and his limitations so far. But nobody hates Brock Purdy, man. Nobody does. How can you hate the guy? He's so likable. He has a lot going for him, and he's doing really well. I mean, I can read you out Brock Purdy's numbers for the season and where he ranks amongst other quarterbacks. He's doing good. I have him somewhere between 12 and 17. If he can turn that notch up, turn that degree up on those deep passes that we're talking about right now, he can climb up into that top 10. And I think that's the only thing missing from his game. Not saying he can't ever learn it. I'm just saying he needs to continue to develop in that area.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to choose, like, what would you prefer that he's good at right now? Like, if there was something he had to improve, I would prefer the things that he's good at over the things he's not good at if I'm choosing. Because when you look at a quote-unquote deep ball, that's even like the top level quarterbacks in the NFL that complete a lot of them or throw a lot of them. Anything above 40 yards, it's like maybe 30 attempts a year. Like you're just not making that pass very often, you know? So it's a small part of your game. So the stuff that it makes up 95% of your game, the intermediate, the short game, he lives in that area. He does fantastic in that area. And so that right there is the launch point. Like, that's the starting point. So if he can add that extra part to his game, I mean, what can't he do at that point, right?